And welcome to Sunrise, and I mean sunrise. Yes, so I hope you had fun with us last weekend, with all those comedians, and all the musicians and all that. I am Alero Edu, and Merry Christmas is still in order.
Yeah, season is great and see you. Well, we've got quite some good feedback so far. Let's have yours as well about how it went down last week. Oh, by the way, there are those who are saying, they announced bags of rice. If you know that you won a bag of rice last Saturday, send us an inbox on X, and of course you can also send us an email. Our email address is right there on your screen. So that's just something, because I actually just remembered that, because some people had been saying, all of that is this. It's not a fluke. All right, so welcome to the show. What you got for us?
And
no word.
We have a word, but something very sad happened, which we just can't not talk about. The 65 people who lost their lives in Ibadan, Abuja, and Anambra in search of what they're going to eat.
Daily bread.
What they're going to eat. Imagine all those children died because their parents had taken them there to hustle and collect $3. All of $3, 5,000 naira. And they ended up losing their lives. I mean, this is very sad, and it speaks to the inflation in the country and the rising cost of living, and how many people can't actually afford to eat a meal in this country.
Well, incidentally, Alero, in the course of the week, I think past 2-3 days, I've stumbled on one particular video on X of somewhere in the United States of America. This fellow was talking about the fact that they wanted to do some good, give a number of people food, and they said that the queue was so long in the U.S. that he was shocked. He said that day that they ended up giving out more than 250,000 tons of vegetables in the United States of America. So I think it buttresses the fact of something some people have been saying, that it's a global phenomenon. However, we
need to be organized about it.
This is our own situation.
Yes.
The queue was humongous, according to the man, and he said rather than be happy that they were doing good, he was sad that it was so bad.
That there were so many people.
And I said, even though that he said that he knew that some people said they didn't get anything, that at least they would get an apple, hopefully. Now, but to the one that you're talking about, one of the things that is clear is that it's not the situation, it's not as much of the situation as in the organizing.
Yes.
In Abuja, on the same day, 2 different scenarios. The one there was a stampede, everything went very smoothly.
Yeah.
So it's not because it's just maybe in alignment in a way with what the president said about our sense of organization. If we were able to organize ourselves better, I don't think we would have that. You were also telling me about philanthropist, businessman, who gave stuff to a whole village. Yeah. And there was not a single stampede.
Not a single, because he didn't ask them to come and queue anyway.
Exactly.
Actually took the things to them and gave them in their houses.
In their home. So, it is in our sense of organizing. Yeah. No matter how good, it will never be enough. That is the truth.
Yeah.
Because some people they collect food not just for today, they want to collect for tomorrow and the day after as well. But can we just take care of one day first? And hopefully we'll be able to talk about the subsequent days eventually.
And can we also start thinking about how to teach the people how to fish and not give them fish and cause them to come out, and this coming out that leads to stampedes and deaths and all that. We must find a way to teach them how to fish so that they will fend for themselves and not think that going somewhere to go collect $3 is a big deal and they're prepared to risk their lives for it.
I agree with with you, Alero. However, don't forget thankfully, it's the Christmas season, something that Jesus said, that you will always have the poor among you.
There's no doubt about it.
Exactly. So it goes back to the same issue of us being organized. There are those who would always give alms. In the Bible, the people gave alms. Yes, there was no stampede in those days. Jesus fed 5,000 people, but there was no stampede. There was no stampede, and also all of that is understood, but it goes back to us. In fact, if we would remember, Jesus said, you guys sit down, sit down, sit down. The food will come to you. So can we have that? It's just the better organizing that I think is important. And I believe that, I mean, it's not the first time these things are happening. So I hope we'll be able to get ourselves better organized going forward.
The next time, yes. Oh, yeah, the presidential chat.
Yeah.
What kind of face is that?
Well,
is that a happy face or a...
Which person's face?
Your face.
It's a journalist's face.
Journalist's face.
Yeah. We were talking about it, I think it was on Thursday on ST. And one of the two things stood out for me, were three issues that I think need to be reviewed subsequently. Number one, 7 interviewers for 1 hour. We do interviews here with 2 of us. We don't have enough time for questions for 1 hour. I put 7 people. How many questions are they going to be asked? They're going to be able to ask. Because
1 each, and the president will answer each one in 5 minutes only.
And then the program is over. Okay, so that's the thing. So that's one. Secondly, I think... at the time the president, I wish I was there. At the time the president said, oh yeah, I dare you, mention one minister. That is not, I said, I would have said power. Instantly. It's spontaneous.
When the minister said that, when the president said that, I said, President, I would say, he has put Indian hemp in their pocket, so he wants to catch them.
How about the power ministry? I would say it. Because I know that so much money has been spent, but we have had X number of Greek collapses in the year. Micro, small, and medium enterprises are the ones that suffer the most.
And what about the livestock minister? What is that one doing?
No, he's just started.
What about blue economy?
He just started. And then the third thing I would have asked is, how come the governors didn't talk about the collaboration between the federal government and state governments? So I would have expected that.
Anyway.
Well, it's also possible that they produced themselves. Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe they didn't have a producer. I said maybe. Don't quit me. I'm just saying. You're looking at me as if maybe.
No.
Because there are no credits at the end of the program. Anyway.
All right.
But, generally, the president had a good outing.
The president, the man is a politician. What did you expect?
Oh, well.
I'm sure he didn't even have to prepare for it.
Well, he was
ready.
Anyway, what is the next item?
Next item, I think, is the menu. 2024 in review. Of course, our eye is on the economy. Are you surprised?
Absolutely not. Keeping the nation safe. Maybe it's another way of us talking about security, but hey, you'll find out what that means later on.
Reimagining leadership strategies for 2025. What is going to change in 2025? It's still the same governors.
Yeah, especially because everything rises and falls on leadership, as we always say.
Yeah.
Lifestyle. New Year resolution. New Year health resolutions.
Some of us don't bother to make resolutions anymore.
Why those health goals fail and what you can do. We'll talk about those ones later.
And then we have an artist of the week who is a he. And he's a he who likes to think that he's an old man who acts roles of old man, but he's actually a young man.
How would you know?
He's not as old as he wants us to believe that he is. That is the person we're going to have as our artist of the week.
Well, apparently there is no cat and there is no bag. Well, if you can guess what she's talking about.
I'll give you 100 guesses. You still won't get it right.
100 guesses.
I'll see you in just a moment. After you have got your cocoa.
Or cocoa. And we'll be right back.
Thank you for being with us this lovely Saturday morning, the Saturday after Christmas, and we are awaiting the new year, and as they say in Yoruba, well, how do you translate Abawalayo?
Yeah.
Translate.
Translate or transliterate. We will have a good year.
Amen to that.
Okay, so where are we going from here?
Yes. A few days ago, earlier in the week, we witnessed a stampede, or we witnessed stampedes among many awaiting programs in Ibadan, Anambra, and Abuja, where approximately 65 people lost their lives. To worsen the situation, Nigeria's headline inflation worsened to 34.6% in November from 33.8% in October, according to the National Bureau of Statistics. The Statistics Office further disclosed that food inflation in November rose to 39.9% year on year, higher than the 32.84% recorded in November 2023. All these statistics, what do they all mean? Well, we have people who are going to explain all of this to us, even though I know that what matters to many Nigerians is not all these figures, 37.9, 39 point. The point is, I cannot afford to buy food to eat. I go to the market, one onion is 500 naira. What is going to happen about that so that I can feed my children? That's what I want to know. Well, Mr. Charles Iyore, Principal Partner, Dion & Associates Limited, joins us from Kent in England. Good morning, Mr. Iyore, and season's greetings to you.
Good morning, Alero. Good morning, Ayo. Compliments of the season.
Yes.
It's the same as well.
As I said in the opening, all these big figures, they say that, what did they say again about the economy has grown. Inflation is at this percent and that percent. The Nigerian is bothered that he cannot eat. He has gone to queue to get a bag of rice or something, or 5,000 naira, and all kinds of unfortunate things happen to him. We want to be able to buy food, Mr. Iyore. What can government do to reduce the cost of food and inflation in the land?
Boy, Alero, thank you for your perspective. But since we're doing a review, it would be nice to have a clear perspective of what we intend to do. What you have said basically is that there have been many actions that the impact is not felt. That's the summary of what you've asked. And ever since we've ever changed government, even when we took away the colonial masters, the excuse has always been that the government is inefficient and things have not been done well, and critical of the past system. Even when the military came, every time someone becomes a military leader, it tells you we found the government broken. So if we want to review what is going on, for example, we'll need to come from the government side of the review. And you can see that review from the budget statement. What the president has said in his budget statement is that he wants non-inflationary spending. critical. And he knows, therefore, that most of the money that is spent in the system does not create value. So inflationary spending is when you spend money and value is not created. And when value is not created, there's more money chasing after the few goods that have been produced. So you then ask yourself, why is there all these distortions taking place over time? The first thing you need to understand is that you need to have what's called a financial system, which is created by us. God doesn't create a financial system for you, but God gives you the means of production. In other words, you have the land, you have the water, you have the sun, and all those properly applied deals with the first part of production, which is agriculture. And there's no technology in the world that can match God's agriculture. Now, so once you have that arrangement in place, you then ask yourself, what is the financial system? The financial system is that when we decide for people to rule us, it is therefore their decision to make the decision on our behalf. We give away all our authority to decide to the government itself. So, and the financial system is that the money in the central bank is how much of your capital you want to translate into currency. Once it is the central bank, the only way to spend it, which is by law, which is called the pump, is called the budget. And then once the money goes out into the system, the government must therefore find ways of bringing it back in. To pay salaries and stuff and all of those things. So government revenue, including tax, is one. The second one is insurance collections. The third one is pension assets. But all of those assets are in different tribes. If you misapply them, they'll cause a distortion in the system. So now when you look at all of those things, you ask yourself, what are the sensible targets that they can achieve? Because right now we have an economy in which very many people are not part of the economy. They're just spectators. You don't know what's going on, which is what's causing all this distortion. So if you decide to divide Nigeria into 10 zones, for example, and your first target is, look, let's produce enough eggs in those 10 zones so that every child in school can go on there. What does it produce an egg? Poultry, chicken. For the chicken to work, you grow the corn to feed the chicken. And after you've done that, you go to the next level. You go to the third level. You go to the fourth level. And all of this really can go around in a cycle of 18 months at the maximum. So, but if we are reacting tactically to what we see as challenges, rather than having a long-term strategic review of what we intend to offer, then governance itself is distorted. And that has been the case for more than 40 years. So, first of all, how much of the capital is converted into currency for transaction? How much of that currency is properly applied in a manner that it doesn't cause inflation? And how you settle all of those things? Because basically, if every settlement is by cash, then it's difficult to moderate prices. And if you can't moderate prices, you have high core inflation. So basically, the life that people lead from the morning to the end of the day must be such that they are part of that production process, either by producing or by consuming. Now, the only way this can work if you have a sound financial system. Now, if you have a very sound monetary system, which we're trying to get to, in which case you're using your instrument control as well, if the treasury doesn't set out the direction of growth, then you're hiding to nothing. I hope I've answered your question.
Mr. Ayure,
thank you.
This monetary thing you're talking about, of us trying to achieve, is that the reason why we cannot get money from the banks now? Is that a deliberate policy of the central bank to reduce the money in circulation?
That's a logistic error in the sense that you have a situation where the money is not moved to the right place at the right time, maybe to control all the issues. But these discussions have been quite a while. You know, the central bank was trying to devolve the central bank into Abuja and Lagos, which I don't think is enough, because the central bank is not for Abuja and Lagos. You have key zones around 10 areas. And once the central bank governor started, everything was up in arms. Because at the end of the day, in America, you have reserve boards. You can't think that Abuja and Lagos will determine all of the spending across the country. So the central bank needs to be increasingly devolved to be closer to where the spending is taking place. It's not enough to have committees about how spending is taking place in those places. But like I've told you, all the central bank does basically is a promise to pay. It does not produce. The Treasury, at the local government, at the state level, and the federal government will have clarity about how it intends to deliver production. I think that what you're seeing there is a distortion, because even those of them who are supposed to manage the system, the bank managers and the rest of them, are part of distorting the process. I do not know, I don't think most branch managers can do any credit assessments anymore in Nigeria. All of the credit that is given out by the banks is done by what they call CRECO. If you guys in the middle and center who are an executive board determine what they do. And that doesn't mean you cannot have impact in the local economy. You can't achieve financial inclusion if all decisions made for loans and credit are made from one place by a few people who only are making sure that we don't want any risk, just import the orange juice, take your money and move on. And again, that's a task that the central bank government will be trying to reverse. I mean, at the heart of all of this is what you call business ethics. What is right and what is wrong? If business ethics, both in the financial service, in private sector and the public sector, are not defined, then you're going to have constant leakages in the domestic plumbing. And if there's constant leakages, the water or the liquidity will not get to where it's wanted. And when the water doesn't get there, which is why they're saying that you can't access money in the cash point, we have a crisis on our hands.
Well, thank you, sir. Let me ask, by the way, Dr. Olugbenga Adeoye has since joined us. He is principal partner, Gbenga Adeoye & Co., a chartered accountant, tax expert, is also an arbitrator and international business lawyer. He joins us virtually from Ogun State. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Dr. Adeoye. I'd like to ask you, you've heard some of the issues that Mr. Ayore has raised. Looking back over the past 12 months of the year 2024, how would you say economically we have said? But I'd like you to speak specifically to the subnationals. He has spoken about the entire nation, of the federal government level. In terms of the states, their performance, their activities, as it affects directly or indirectly the people that live within those states, how would you say economically we have fared?
Okay, Ayo, it seems
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Ayo, it seems your voice is not loud enough, but can you repeat that question again?
Okay, can you hear me better now?
Yes, better now.
Okay. Mr. Ayore, while speaking, he spoke largely, broadly about the federal government's activities and things that they did and all of that. But I'd like you to speak specifically to the subnationals, and I'm talking all 36 states on the average. How would you say that the state governors or state governments responded to the economic realities that we had to evolve into in the course of the past 24 months, in the course of the past 12 months?
Okay. Actually, we discover over the years that when you talk about economic crisis, people blame the federal government a lot. But I can tell you, the subnationals, they have responsibility. And to a large extent, 95% of them, they have failed in doing what they ought to do. I keep asking the question, there are certain states, when you look at the resources they have, it's more than what you can find in one of the 50 states in the US. So for me, as soon as the current president got into power, and then allocation increased to above 1 trillion, I have not been able to see what most state governments have done differently from what they used to do in the past. Now, critical infrastructure like roads, internal roads, investing in generation, power plants, focusing on industrial hub, that states ought to invest in, I found out that most of the states, they are not, they are nowhere to be found. And you could also see that in the kind of agitation and resistance from many states when it comes to the issue of derivation of the value-added tax revenue for the country. So when you look at the problem of inflation, where inflation on food has risen to above 40%, other items above 34%, between last year and now, I have not seen state government taking the bull by the horn, having their bulk purchase department functioning effectively. You all know that quantity discount is one of the ways to reduce your prices. I have not seen serious investment in internal rail system in the country. It shouldn't take more than 4 years to do all of this. So, and you don't expect the federal government to begin to deal with your internal transportation system. Kudos to Lagos State for what Lagos is able to do in the rail system. Not only that, you're talking about education. When you look at the standard of our schools, I have not seen state government paying attention to technical education that will empower the people. And these are the things that affect the value chain in the economy. The allocation they are getting in trillions, what are they using it for? Rather than invest it in things that would transform the landscape of the economy, that makes the place attractive, that would now become a pull strategy for investors. You just see bogus expenses among governors. So I am not satisfied with the federating units in terms of what they ought to do. And that being so, because we have places we can compare them to, few ones that are doing very well, you then wonder where those people are getting the money to do what they're doing.
Okay.
So,
Dr. Leo, let me ask Mr. Yore the same question about the subnationals as to how, what would be your assessment? Because, I mean, if the federal government is doing anything, evolving policies, raising finances and resources and all, the way we will feel the impact is on the people living in the 36 states as well as the capital city in Abuja. So what's your assessment, Mr. Ayore, particularly of the subnationals?
Well, what I'll say is that I won't sit in judgment over any of them. Government in the service must set the tone. I was in a similar platform about 5 or 6 days ago with one of the commissioners of one of the states. I said, one of the key things you need to do, freedom does not mean there are no boundaries. There should be a playbook for every local government. So if you go to a local government, you know what to expect and what not to expect. It's not as if they just wake up and say, this is how we want to spend our money. There should be a playbook for each of the states to say, this is what to expect and this is what we don't want to expect. And the central playbook of the federal government is what is regarded as national planning. In the absence of all of that, you have a rogue behavior. Like I said, basically, the ethics of doing business, people try to relate it to morality and religion. There's nothing to do with morality and religion. It's about what is right to do and what is wrong to do. Now, if there are no ethics which represent the retaining walls and the pillars that hold up the system, when you undermine one, you undermine all of them, which is what the president is referring to when he talks about non-inflationary spending. How that will be translated by all of the units within the financial system will determine how the results you are going to get. You can't say because the president becomes local government chairman, he can do what he likes. Like in England, as a local government chairman, you cannot go to the bank to borrow. You don't do deficit budgeting. That's one of them. In England, for example, in those days, they used to have a central way of collecting rubbish. It was never done, and London was in a stink. Right now, all of the boroughs do their own collection. And when one is not able to do it, well, they come together and reduce the cost of collecting garbage. So it's not enough to just blame people if the framework for that to happen is not in place. And then ultimately, like I've said, if you don't run the money that you see is impetus for growth. The money is created by you. Every country creates its own money. But if you print your own money and it's not delivering service to you, and people are taking it without delivering service, in other words, government is forced to pay people when they haven't delivered service. And the money you have printed yourself to create impetus in your own economy, you steal it and use it to buy another person's money. For me, that's beyond slavery. So those are the key issues. If you don't deal with the framework, you cannot say you're in a house if you're not in a house because you dug a hole in a pit of sand. Okay. So basically, the tone has not been properly set for a long time. And like I keep telling you, the key thing you must take out of the president's budget, and I think everybody in government should know what that means, non-inflationary spending.
But who is going to ascertain, who is going to police that, Mr. Iyore? Because
like I just told you, the reason why there's inflationary spending is because you don't have a playbook of what you expect every local government to do. They're making the rules up along the line.
But the president, okay, let me ask, maybe Mr. Dr. Ade might be able to, because the president cannot determine, he can only determine how the budget at the federal level is determined. So if the federal government is saying we will engineer a non-inflationary spending policy, can we legislate that for the state governments as well?
The president is not one person. The president is a presidency. And he has a government. It's one we are giving our mandate to. And he must make those decisions. Let me give you one example, for example, of abuse of collections. Now, we have NHIS, we have HMO and the rest of them. There's enough money in the system to take care of healthcare and pay doctors to be here. But there's no structure or how that money is going to be developed. My cousin, my brother was about to do that, may he so rest in peace, Ade Alakija in Lagos State. What you're saying basically is that if you are collecting money NHS, HMO, can you just please divide that? You allow 50% to go into buying drugs, and they will own it and run the central drugstore. Okay. A long time ago. And then you go and say the next 20% should be used for them to pay for services in the secondary hospital.
I get your point, Mr. Iyore, yes. But okay.
So you ask me what the president can do. Yeah. That's what I'm explaining to you.
I get that. I get that. But that's at the federal level. So, Dr. Adeoye, do you think we can legislate that policy for the state governments as well? Non-inflationary spending?
No. The reason is because states are creation of the law, and it is expected that every state should function on their own. So that's why at the state level, you have the state assembly, you have the executive, you have the judiciary at the state level. Now,
so just a second, Mr. Dr. Adeoye. So if the president, for instance, says non-inflationary spending, and the states do not apply the same policy or parameter or whatever, how effective will the non-inflationary spending of the federal government be?
It's actually going to be limited to the federal level. And you see, policy direction, as good as it is, you need a police over the people. And when I say police now, it has to do with implementation. There's little or nothing Mr. President can do about the activities of governors in their respective states. I'll give you an example. Budget is passed at the state level. We are going to do 10 roads. Quality stated, everything stated. What happens at the point of implementation? Now, non-inflationary spending, you are doing a project that requires physical infrastructure, and you are already buying 20 SUV for this director, for this supervisor, for that one. Now you realize that spending at state level is politically motivated to an extent where you see food for the boys. And so, for Mr. President, he can give direction where we are going. It is now left for us at the state level to do our own things properly. If the president says, this is the direction we are going, it is now left for us at the state level, and I'm saying so, having the state assembly acting on our behalf to call the executive to order. But the question is this: how do they get there to the state assembly? You have 20-something members in the state assembly. The governors purchase their form for them, spend all their campaign funding, and then you are expecting them to do their police job. They cannot do. You have people in the state assembly who does not have personal means of livelihood before now, and they are there. Therefore, you cannot get the result you are looking for. The only solution, my brother, Charles Odion, that is there, let him come and come to the state assembly. Let him come and play his own role. He should not stay in US. Ayo, all of us, let us take part one way or the other to solve our problem. As long as you put the worst in the society, in leadership, at state level, you cannot get results. You have people they are okay, they're doing well in business. Coming into politics now become sacrifice and a service for them. Those are the people that can perform.
Mr. Yore, for a few budgets now, we have talked about diversification of our economy and reducing our reliance on oil. In the year under review, 2024, how well have we done in that regard? Mr. Yore?
I won't respond to whether I'm in England or America and just poking my nose into the business in Nigeria. I don't want to go into all of that. If you're not aware, I ran and I worked in the Nigerian Stock Exchange. I sat on the committee for FSS 2020 in the Central Bank. I wrote the rules for Security and Exchange Commission. So it's easy to just willy-nilly make all those comments and the same. And when foreign exchange started, I published the first newsletter on proper allocation of foreign exchange in this country, when Charles Adiku wrote on the board. So when I talk, you won't talk. It's unfortunate that you speak with such circumspect. I consider that inappropriate. Now, what you said, and I'll give you an example of what needs to be done. You reeled out the figures of what's called core inflation, food. And I just told you basically, there's nothing to being able to ensure that poultry exist somewhere and produce eggs. And that those don't even need to be bought with money so you can moderate prices. I've also told you why the central bank government tried to devolve the function of the central bank and how it was held back. So it's not about blaming people and blaming people, because at the end of the day, they cannot give you what they don't have. I just told you there's no playbook of what you expect in every local government. It's 40 years in doing. A situation where, for example, when I was young, there were inspectors of all schools, whether they were private, public, or missionary. Where are the inspectors of schools today? So those are the issues, and you must deal with the issues.
Deal with the issues for butting in, so that we can have a more functional, more productive governance, as you are, calling our attention to. How do we evolve this playbook? My assumption, and I had often said this, that when anyone gets into office, I'm not sure we have a job description and KPIs for a local government chairman, for a governor, for a commissioner, unless we have those things as it operates in the private sector. I'm not sure if we'll be able to have the kind of governance, productivity that we want. So, is that what you are talking about when you talk about playbook?
Yes. That's what I'm talking about. Because basically, when people cannot follow an argument, you hear them say, don't go to Renchi, and all kinds of things. You put down. You follow a logic of what we're talking about. We're saying, for example, the first issue we need to deal with here, your financial system is ineffective. I already described that. We then went on to say, can the state local government just do what they like? They cannot do what they like. There's a tone that is set, for example. So instead of buying 20 SUVs, if you had said that each 10 schools in every local government should have a bus to take children to school and back, those who do not have those buses will have not performed. That you haven't put anything on the line items of the budget. They're analyzing those budgets as if it's an accounting document, income and expenditure. Where's waste? That's not what they're looking at. The duty of those in government is to husband resources. Now, like I was just telling you, if you want to determine the ratios of the budget, because the budget is the pump, you must ask yourself, there are three broad demographics of society. Those who are old and infirm, who cannot support themselves. Those who are the workforce, who are producing everything that you want to do. And those who are school children who must be going into, have instructions to replace the workforce. Let's ask ourselves, take it one by one. Those infirm and elderly, are they taken care of in our system now? And how much of the budget goes to them? Federal, state, and local government. Those who are the workforce, how much money is going to their training so they can be competitive? How much of the budget is allocated to that? Those who are being trained in school, whether it is how to build blocks or do baskets or design clothes or any of those things. Now, those are the issues that once they are in place, you cannot have inflationary spending. So, and I'm saying that if it sets the tone by saying non-inflationary spending, we as media must begin to explain those items in clear terms, like we are saying. It's not about someone talking from America or the moon or elsewhere. That's just a way of excluding people, and when you're not certain that you can match the argument, we're saying there are things that can be done. It's not about blaming the governor or blaming the president or blaming people. We're saying, look, they are the ones we are giving authority to. They are the ones making the decisions. You can't make decisions on their behalf. You can't go around criticizing them. I heard the Minister of the Economy the other day explaining in clear terms what he intends to do. Now, can he walk? They talk. Those are what we need to do when we're observing. Not saying the local governments are not doing anything. But we don't have a playbook for them. In England, there are places where if you don't allow the local government to do what they need to do, there'll be a crisis. The concept of PPP is what we use to create Bangladesh Hospital, with local governments coming together to build an hospital and ensuring that the patients from those places are the ones that first get into the hospital. Those are what they call the tapestry of society, and it's a detailed job. It's not about criticizing people or saying they mean nothing or they are shooting their mouth where they don't belong. That's risk. It's inappropriate. Thank you.
Dr. Adoye, under the year in review, we're told that our foreign reserves increased. What is the meaning of that in real terms? How does that affect the lives of Nigerians?
Okay. Foreign reserve is a sign that you're not just spending your entire revenue either to service debt or on recurrent, and then you have something to fall back into. Apart from that, when you look at settlement of transactions, especially for essential imports, if your foreign reserve is bad, you're going to run into problem. You'll not be able to meet up. So that is good for us as a country. And it also has effect on our exchange rate in the long run, because essential importation, central bank will be able to clear them on behalf of importers that are importing things genuinely. So that's good news for us, that we're growing our reserve.
Let's look at poverty levels. In the year under review as well, we are told that the number of Nigerians that are living below the poverty line increased. So juxtapose those figures with the plans for 2025. Is there any hope for us?
Well, every year there have been hopes, and 2025 is not going to be different. The year 2024, where many people enter the poverty cadre, is as a result of inflation, such that somebody whose income did not increase is now unable to purchase basic items that he or she could have been able to afford. And so you have an income that cannot pay rent anymore. You have income that cannot buy you rice anymore. So all of this, is what make people to become poor in the country. But again, we're learning big lessons from that. Example was given about, okay, instead of buying SUV, you could buy buses for schools. I believe that one of the ways to overcome poverty in the coming year is responsible spending, which is also called non-inflationary spending. So if you look at the capital of a state, for example, and you purchase buses that will transport people in different locations at subsidized rate, so people are comfortable, regardless of your income level, you are able to move up and down within the city. And not only that, our public schools, if public schools are in good shape, they have roof over their head, they have good teachers, then you can be rest assured that people will be able to send their children there, because these are expenses that people call must in their lives. You just have to spend on it. The third thing is healthcare. To be honest, I want to commend my state for the initiative on health insurance in Ogun State. Personally, I have put about 50 people on health insurance now this year. What that means is that you just spend 12,000 naira, and then whenever you are sick, you have a place to go to for treatment. So the only way, or what I will advocate, is that we need to promote this more, and then well-meaning Nigerians, everybody working class, all your staff, you put them on health insurance, such that this is not part of your worries in the year to come. That, oh, if I'm sick, do I have enough savings to go to hospital? Ordinary malaria, you're looking for money, like what they call Obamacare. So, but the challenge with that is that the government need to invest more in primary health care, for example. I'll give you an example. We wanted to put some people in health insurance in the village at Ajibo. There is no clinic, no healthcare center that is suitable for the state health insurance to direct them to. So they say, oh, they will have to travel almost 25 kilometers to another healthcare center. So these are the things that the government need to look into. At one point you hear, oh, what you have there is Federal Medical Center, the state does not have control. So there is need for collaboration. So you put everybody on healthcare insurance, workers at all levels, encourage every employer of labor to do so. Then the coming year will be a good year for us. So if you don't have problem with transportation, you don't have problem with the school to send your children to, and then your health care is taken care of, then you are good to go. The next thing we need to focus on is renewable energy that's counted for people, for households in the coming year.
Okay. Mr. Yore, in just one sentence, please, your closing thoughts on this as we look forward to 2025.
My closing thought is that we should need to take a good look at what the president has said about non-inflationary spending, and how to ensure that all the three cadres of government buy into it and know where to cooperate or disaggregate to ensure that that achieves. this way of doing whatever you like in every local government, in every state, and in the ministries, departments, and agencies that is not coordinated makes it difficult for the financial system and the central bank governor to meet every promise to pay for service deliver which is on our currency.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Charles Iore, Principal Partner, Dion and Associates, who joined us via Zoom from Kent, as well as Dr. Olubenga Adeoye, Principal Partner, Gbenga Adeoye and Co. He's a chartered accountant and a tax expert, arbitrator, and international business lawyer, who joined us via Zoom from Abeokuta. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
Sunrise will return in just a moment with another interesting conversation. Do join us.
So much for staying with us. One of the unfortunate incidences we heard of in the course of the week is that of the Lakurawas, who were told operate mainly in the country's northwestern region. They are said to be the new insurgent group that security analysts are voicing concerns about. Last month, defense officials said the group originated from the Sahel region, particularly Mali and Niger, after last July's coup in Niger disrupted joint military patrols along the Nigerian border. We also understand that the Lakurawas infiltrated northwest Sokoto and Kebbi states from neighboring Niger and Mali, following last year's coup, which severed ties between Nigeria and Niger and disrupted joint regional security patrols. Of course, as at now, the ideology of this new group is not known, but its emergence signals a growing threat in northwest Nigeria, which is already challenged by attacks from armed gangs and kidnappings for ransom. Let's have conversations around this morning. It's not really the way you want to end the year, but let's have conversations with Ladi Thompson, who is a security expert, and Professor Ademola Abbas, a professor of international law and global affairs. Both of them join us virtually this morning. Gentlemen, good morning, and thank you for joining us. Well, Professor Thompson, you have been on this for a while. Did you see, was this new group part of the threats that you always talked about, or is just an accidental evolution?
Very much. It's been quite a while. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Now, the truth is this: at this point in time in the history of our country, when it comes to this issue of terrorism, we did say 14, 15 years ago that apart from the major, that there will also be generics, there will be copycats. So at this point in time right now, with the security situation that we have, honestly, I think we need to be focusing right now on the right answers to the right questions. So the point is this: they are taking the lives of people. We knew this. We said it over and over again. We are hereby saying it again. So I would really appreciate, because of the value of the lives of the people, rather than quibbling about names, phrases, when we know the template that produced it, we need to evolve. If you go back to my interviews on this station, 10, 15 years, it was so obvious. Honestly, out of respect of the value for human worth, we need to focus now on solutions and how we can get away from this permanently, as opposed to discussing the same thing over and over again on television.
Well, it's the same. It's in the same spirit that we are having this conversation, because, as you know, if we don't understand what the problem is, evolving a solution might be a problem. Already now, unfortunately, there is that breakback between the community and military operatives in the country. So if we don't know where the problem is coming from, how will we be able to talk about solutions?
Well, the template for this problem, frankly speaking, as of like 10, 12 years ago, we were involved in global meetings where many serious-minded nations were already tackling this new threat. Asymmetrical warfare, hybrid threats. We're talking about the weaponization of even civilians, and an army that has no barracks, no uniform, has an ideology. It's a supremacist. We know what it is. We have always known what it is. We understand the way it multiplies. We understand the way it operates and the way it communicates across the world. So what am I trying to point out is that all along we have said to ourselves that if any country wants to defeat this thing, look, the names will continue to crop up. There's going to be a rush. It's a template that was created a long time ago. The template is still working till now. So what are we saying now? If we want to solve this thing, we need to go back to the things that we have mentioned way back since that have not been done till now, so that we don't come back again and say the same things and blood keeps flowing. The old solution is very simple. Number one, Nigeria has devalued human worth to the point where no nation can fight this new kind of war and win as long as the value of human worth is not redefined in a way that every citizen will be ready to be patriotic to the country. Number two, look, where there's no vision, the people will perish. There is no national vision. This thing destroys nations from within. It has done that to others. We keep saying the same thing again. Listen, we need to revisit the foundations of the country. There are floor lines, there are cracks, there are things that it is absolutely unintelligent for 200 and something million people to wake up every morning and attempt the impossible. Apart from that, we told you that all over the world, the militaries have deconstructed. We said these are no longer the days of plot suites, Trinity of War. Military strategies have been deconstructed all over the world to accommodate this new threat. And the truth is the final one is that you have to have a superior architecture of thought. As we're discussing right now, we are not 30 steps ahead. This thing is a global threat. It's global. It's a global threat with a local face. It's a hydra. It has sophistication. It is patient. It switches warheads. It's not only the military, the kinetics. We've said this again and again that the solution, the kinetic solution, is only about 36% of this whole thing. So it's painful to watch a country of our size, to watch a country with the kind of potentials we have, to watch a country with the kind of professionals that we have, being taken to the market by a threat that we should have handled long time ago. I hope you understand my angst.
Understandably, because I mean, talking about the same thing repeatedly for 15 years, it can be quite an issue. I was going to go to Professor Abbas right now, but for a second, let me stick with you, Pastor Thompson. So now that this is the situation we find ourselves, you've talked about the fact that there isn't a national vision. You've also talked about a number of other issues bothering around solving this problem. But the challenge here that a number of people might want to point to is there is no stream of activities, no sustainable stream of activities that can help to ensure that we are kept safe or we keep safe. Governments evolve every 4 years or every 8 years, and that means the leadership evolves. Consequently, policies also evolve. It would seem like as a nation, except for maybe 1 or 2 states in the country, we've had a situation where once a government comes in, policies evolve, initiatives evolve, leaderships evolve. For one, either for political patronage or for intended vision of the incumbent. So how then do we sustain this war that you are talking about, knowing that it's not something that just started? I mean, you've been talking about this for about 15, 20 years now. So it's not something that's just starting. So how do we win this war? How do we sustain this battle to reduce your angst and also save lives progressively? when we are unable to sustain a government in office for a good length of time or sustain a policy beyond one government or the other?
Good. I've said this and I'm going to say it once more. The first thing we must learn to do, which is the weakness of the African mind, especially in the place of leadership, is the inability to mathematize inquiry. If we crunch the numbers, we join the dots, we concatenate, we're going to discover that, number one, the architecture of thought is such that if the foundations have been removed, listen, let me give you a good example of what you're saying. The shambolic democracy, and I say that with a lot of deliberateness, that we are practicing, is supposed to be an American-style democracy. But if America tried to practice what Nigeria is practicing right now, it will collapse under 2 weeks. Now, what am I talking about? I'm talking about the fact that at the foundation of America, there is the fact that America is not a democracy, it's a democratic republic. And the fact that this thing is a global problem with a local face tells you that we have an advantage in that we should be talking about bilateral. If normally, no matter what it is, the number of political parties you have, when you have an existential threat to a nation, it is the duty of the leadership of the country to introduce a narrative. We need to introduce a single narrative that explains to the country, look, there are at least 5 existential threats, which means your children's future, your own future, is not safe except we come together under a new national vision and then listen to what this man said. Was it on the 7th of October in 1960 at the United Nations General Assembly? Sir Abubakar Tafawa Balewa pointed out that this would come to happen in this country. And he mentioned then that all we need to do, he used the word eternal truth. What he was trying to point out was this: if we have a firm foundation, we will handle this thing easily. Look at the foundation of the American democracy. They went all the way back to the Greek philosopher called Cicero. And what Cicero said is that, look, don't determine what is right or wrong in a country based on the opinions of men. And he said there's something called natural laws and the God of nature. And he was able to extrapolate that there are what we call unjust laws and there are just laws. So if Nigeria's framework of laws is not the confusing, interesting confusion that it is, things that Awolowo spoke about in 1952, 1958, that things that, look, the patriots of Nigeria have spoken about for decades, and then till now, with the number of universities we have, the amount of research going on in the country, we are still saying that we don't know to go back to that foundation and ensure that Nigeria is actually a democratic republic, not just a democracy, not just a game of numbers. There's an amount of intelligence behind it. Why? Because then we will have moral standards. As it is right now in the country, the people are demoralized. They've been subject to 5 existential threats for so long. There's something called TMI, transmarginal inhibition. The average Nigerian is tired. And when they're tired, people begin to behave in diverse ways. First of all, it used to be tragic optimism. I told you that was developed. A man who was in Nazi Germany in the war camps in those days pointed out that there's a reality of pain, stress, and when it gets to a particular point, it becomes overwhelming. The brain shuts down. So the average Nigerian is waking up and getting up, looking around. What is the effect of this? It makes people self-centered. It makes people, it changes the personality of the average Nigerian. Nobody's thinking of God and country. Everybody's thinking about survival for themselves. And it just means that people are ready to backbite. They're ready to believe the worst things. Nobody's building consensus. All we need is a unified narrative. I remember I overheard a few years ago, General Ibrahim Babangida gave an interview and popped up and did mention that Nigeria needed a new narrative. And I smiled to myself then. I said, oh, thank God. Even the old war horses realized that Nigeria, if it's going to survive, needs a new narrative. So what am I pointing out to us is this thing is not as difficult as it is. Nigeria right now, the people are demoralized. Let me tell you what the first thing we have to tackle if we want to get serious. Nobody in Nigeria right now believes that good can triumph over evil. There's no nation that you can build in the world. Look, this thing collapses nations from within because it has its own moral code. It's a mixture. It's an ideology that takes advantage and wears the disguise of religion. Because of that, in a country that has no moral code that is sound, that governs an overarching moral code that will govern the entire country from generation to generation? Excuse me? How difficult is it for us to call a meeting of the relevant authorities and the institutes that are in charge of establishing the moral code for a nation, instruct them, empower them to realizing that, listen, this is one of the greatest strengths that the nation needs if we're going to tackle this issue. The increment of the value of human worth, the worst form of corruption is when you devalue human worth. That's what's happening to us. So if we get the bodies together to establish this for us, simply, you will find out that we will be able to get away from the religious problem where people believe, listen to me, people believe evil will triumph. But the truth is this, even in the foundation of America, and I think we need to turn towards the Trump presidency. If you ask me, I've been listening to the chatter going on in Washington right now, and I've realized that if Nigeria is wise right now, a lot of Nigerians don't realize this, but the Republicans have always had better news for Africa than the Democrats have, unless they change their minds tomorrow. I'm not talking about living in America. I'm talking about from the African perspective. There's this film called, I think, 13 Hours or so. If the average Nigerian is able to watch that film and you read in between the lines of the script, you realize that the Republicans have always been friendlier in terms of if Africa can bring its case. Nigeria can be the game changer. Look at what is happening all over the whole place. It's not just a Nigerian problem. What we need to do right now is to take charge of the narrative, localize our narrative. Listen to me. Send in a team into Washington. There are certain committees, in Congress, certain committees in the Senate that we need to go and talk to point out that, look, how can the country that is styled after the American democracy be such a failure?
Okay.
Even Liberia, that has an umbilical cord that is American, is also a failure. We will seize the high moral ground, we'll establish proper relationships and come up with the solutions, letting the United States of America know that, look, we, Nigeria, we are bringing a solution that will help you in your country. Since you have a president now, the 47th president, Donald Trump, from what we have seen of his profile, this is the kind of person that if Nigeria does what is right, we are going to find out that we are going to be able to have U.S. policies that will work better, especially when we prove that instead of aligning certain interests, the proxy wars going on over Nigeria right now, and instead of our governments behaving like house helps to foreign powers, we come up with a line that shows how the entire world, the globe, can be a better place if Nigeria introduces a narrative that will not only help us, it will help the entire globe, and it will even help the United States of America in expanding its influence properly. Okay. What am I talking about here?
Thank you, Pastor. We need to bring in Professor Abbas now. We've since been joined by Professor Ademola Abbas, Professor of International Law and Global Affairs. Morning, Professor.
Yeah, good morning. Nice seeing you again. Thanks for having me.
Yes, Mr. Thompson has described what we have as an existential threat, and he says that Nigerians have become demoralized and only think about how to survive. And when he was saying that, my mind immediately went to what the army chief said in the course of the week, when he said that these people come in as large groups, sometimes as many as 200 of them, on motorbikes, do the damage they want to do, and go away. 200 people cannot run or overrun a village or a community without being seen, and 200 people need sustenance. Some people are their couriers to get them food, to get them arms, to supply them water. Is it the same Nigerians who are being killed daily who are also sustaining these people wherever it is that they're hiding out?
Well, thank you very much again. Merry Christmas to you guys, and Happy New Year in advance, as we say in Nigeria here. Look, I don't think that is a very complex situation to unravel, to be honest with you. That is, if the question is, look, is it the same Nigerians who are demoralized, as the previous speakers said, that are helping people come in and help? It's not a very difficult thing to achieve. So, the pirates in those days, when they were very active, they live among their people. This was a community that was largely agrarian, largely fishing, and so on and so forth. And when they felt that a lot of injustices were being met out to them, they began to resort to self-help. In other words, you have the same community that were not looked after by the authorities. Actually, they started dealing with the pirates who were supposed to be acting on their behalf, who were giving them part of what they thought they were due for, that the government of the day was not giving them. What am I trying to say? If you have people coming in on motorbikes and entering Nigeria from whatever, and by the way, we have some of the most porous borders in the world, point blank, as far as a country as we're concerned. We're very, very porous. We have not done what we are supposed to do. But that's a discussion for another day. But let's focus on people just, on the motorbike and this and that. Look, as we say in Yoruba land, we say, I'm sure other tribes have the same kind of saying, that if there are no cracks in the wall, lizards will not wander into your household or ousted. It's as simple as ABC. You may have just 200 people jumping on their bike and coming in. They have local support. Local support from people who have been who feel, and sometimes justifiably so, that they have been abandoned by their own government. The things that are due to them are not going to them. So necessarily they become demoralized. And when we're demoralized, what then do? You look for alternatives. You begin to cherry pick between evils. You look for lesser evil. So if an armed robber comes in the name of Robin Hood to your area and goes to steal maybe $1,000 and looks at you and says, you take $20 and go and sort yourself out for not giving me up, you will do a deal with that, because the government that you put in power doesn't even give you a dime in the first place. So there's that kind of connotation at a very high level of analysis. But when you go beyond that, I don't think you need a Nostradamus to gaze into crystal ball today and say Nigerians are demoralized. I was talking to somebody a few weeks ago, and the person asked a question that whether somebody was depressed. And I joked that almost every Nigerian is naturally depressed. The things that will have pushed a lot of people over the edge in Western world, I think God has built Nigerians in a different way in terms of our capability and ability to absorb. I don't know the kind of shock absorber God built into Nigerians, because I don't know of another humanity that can deal and cope with 1/10 of what an average Nigerian faces today that wouldn't have gone under. So I think, to be honest with you, yes, we are demoralized, we are traumatized, we are everything. However, for me, what is important in the whole thing is to take a serious look at where we are coming, and where we think we are going. That, for me, is a big challenge that we need to face. Look, we can see it, we can throw vitriolics, we can be vehement, we can be anything against ourselves. I was talking to somebody a few days ago. I said, look, and this is not making any excuse for who we are, but as a people, we need also to learn. We need to be able to turn. I mean, I agree with the fact that we have to begin to push our narratives. Let me give you an example. Again, I'm saying nobody's deodorizing whatever field is in our system in some particular area. But see what happened in America in the last elections. Elon Musk was giving cash out before that election, raw dollars. Almost $1 million given to people to vote in certain areas. You will never see an American press come out and call it vote buying. But we have it in Nigeria. If it happens in a third world country, that is vote buying. That is blatant corruption. I lived several years in the United Kingdom. One thing I never saw the British newspaper use to describe their politicians is the word corruption. Corruption does not exist, so to say, in their tabloid. You don't get it. What they will talk about is cash for oppression, is sleaze, is cash for honor. They deodorize all these things, they euphemize them. It doesn't mean that they're not there, they are there. And nobody is saying, so therefore corruption should be accepted in Nigeria. No. But we are saying that we have to start to begin to engage with ourselves. And you learn a lot when you're a little patient of your and a little savvy of your own heritage too at the end of the day. So we have to take the narrative and we have to use it in a way that will begin to make us a very, very serious people. But now, to be honest with you, I don't think anybody is taking us very seriously in the world anymore. I was watching some news at the CNN a few days ago, and they talk about about 10,000 people dying on the sea this year. Most of them are Africans. It was a footnote, and that is how unstrategic, how unimportant the whole continent has become, to a large extent, to the rest of the world. So yeah, we really need to begin to engage with ourselves. What we are doing now is what we cannot sustain. We cannot. In a proverbial world, we say that if an elder belt himself with corn belt, you turn yourself into a ridicule for hens to come and peck at in the first place. So nobody takes us seriously anymore, and that bothers me. It bothers me because we behave like a people that don't often understand what living is all about. I mean, Mr. Thompson talks about existentialist stress. Look, that is one of the most potent dangers in Nigeria. We don't just seem to realize the situation we are in. When people are talking about, whenever we're saying this and that, we say we'll get there. It's a common phrase in Nigeria. Oh, we are going to get there. Oh, I keep telling people, where are you getting to exactly? You know, at the peak of Usain Bolt, as the fastest man on the universe, if you put Ademola about to come and run a race with Usain Bolt, and we are facing forward together, I might be hoping that one day, maybe Usain Bolt will get tired and begin to slow down. Maybe in 1,000 years, I'll catch up with him. But if Usain Bolt, with all his agility, is facing south, and Ademola Abbas is facing north, even if he gets tired, I will never catch up with him, but we are not running the same race. Nigeria is running a completely different race from the rest of humanity. Permit me to say. And I think the professor touched on something very, very vital. And that is the difference between a democracy and a democratic republic. People keep forgetting that most countries today that are very well developed in the world, whether US, UK, Canada, Germany, go and check it. None of them began with 4-year term in office. None. Sometimes you need much longer time. Even when you go to the Arab world, their theocracy, so to say, whether you talk about UAE or Saudi Arabia, sometimes you need longevity, you need a lengthy period of time. In Nigeria, and I've said this on your program several times, democracy, even if you take democracy in its very banal form, democracy should be contextualized, should be autochthonized, should be indigenized in a way that will suit you. If it is 4 years in the UK, if it is 4 years in America, doesn't mean to work for Nigeria in 4 years. Let me just break it down for you. So you contest an election in Nigeria for 4 years. The fourth year you come in, you are trying to grapple with the element to even settle down. That's in your first year. We know that is the reality in Nigeria. If you are fast enough, you will start putting your cabinet together sometime after 5 or 6 months when you're trying to settle down. After a year, begin to say, what am I in office for? You're already in your year 2. By the time you get into year 2, you have to deal with the elements of Nigeria anyway. You have the first year in your year 2. By year 3, you are looking at the election next year. You start worrying about campaign. And whether you like it or not, that is not sustainable. It is not. Are we even having any conversation about the possibility, I'm just saying the possibility for argument's sake, of saying, what if we have a one-term for our presidency at that level, a one-term of 6 or 7 years, and hear me out. So you come in, and when I was a cabinet member of Lagos State, I think we tried to do that with LASU as an example. We discovered that Lagos State University was having problem with generic, transformation of one vital sign to another because they wanted to come back and this and that. And that will inform their policy choices at the end of the day. And we tell you, why don't you stop that? What if you have a vice chancellor for 5 years non-renewable? Do it in the country and say, you know what, because of our particular kind of situation in Nigeria, let's have a president for 1 year for 6 years, or one term of 6 years. So you come in year 1, you do your nonsense in the first year, you have 5 years to focus. And because you know you are not coming back, your interest is no longer about you being reelected, but your party being reelected. And whether your party will be reelected or not at the end of 6 years will be determined largely by how you perform as a president. I think something tells me, and I'm not holding a crystal ball here, so what something tells me we are likely to achieve more. Look, we've done this 4 years thing for almost 40, 50 years now. And we are nowhere. We are military whatsoever. We are nowhere to be found yet. How are we sure? Again, let me just stretch it a second further. Now I am not prejudging the outcome of the current president's, current government's policies. I have my take on that. Whether you like it or not, and I said it several times, on this channel. That personally, this is my personal opinion. I believe so much in some of the policies of the current government. They are bold. They were policies that needed to be taken. Now whether we can have a debate on whether there were, enough palliative to cushion the effect on people on this and that. And the previous speaker talked about, I think the previous segment about different segments of people that should have been taken care of that were not taken care of. I agree with that. We can debate all those. But did we need to remove subsidy? Absolutely yes. Did we need probably to deal with for forex and whatever market? Absolutely yes. Did we need to de-emphasize exportation and increase importation and increase exportation? Absolutely yes. Have they been done in the proper manner? We can debate that. But my worry actually is not longer about the current government. My worry is what happens with all this if another government comes in that does not believe in whatever gains the government has made. And we have had that in the past. Everything will go to waste. So we go back again to square one because it's focused on one man, the president. What if he begins to focus on one party, on the party, which have to come with the structure I'm talking about? Then you will know that you have 6 years to put something solid in power, whereby it's coming out something to building, not a government coming to waste it. I think those are the conversations and the discussions we need to be graphical now.
Mr. Thompson, do you get a sense that the current president is actually showing signs of seriousness in fighting all this insurgency we're talking about?
Where? I expect a lot much more from the current president. If we do an analysis of his deft dealings and the way he ascended to power against all odds, I would say that if we joined hands with him across the nation, we would be able to do what is right and get this nation on track. I personally am very disappointed at the level. I expect a lot more brilliance from him than what I've seen on display. I know the challenges of ruling a behemoth like Nigeria. But when I remember what he single-handedly did, look, the templates, the narratives that existed before he came, for him to become the president of this country, he was able to take apart those narratives single-handedly. All the divides in Nigeria, he was able to breach them. He had enough architectural thought to be able to do the impossible. But having gotten there, there is no point in us. Let's get back to the narrative again. The difference between a 100-meter dash and a relay race is that when the president comes in, and these are the kind of things I expect President Tinubu to be able to do. From what I have seen, he has a good grasp. He is an excellent communicator, and he understands human nature. And there are certain things he needs to put in place for us to know that this is really a serious president who will be remembered for something. We cannot complain. Listen, the template he met will not work. He knew it will not work before he got there. He knows the obstacles he faced even to get there. So moving forward from this point, I personally, and any statesman, any person who was around in Awolowo's Western region, we expect much better from President Ahmed Tinubu than we are getting from him. Now, in a relay race, the reason why the baton exchange is there is because it defines the narrative. That's what makes it a relay race. So it's a moot point in a democratic republic if the foundations are properly set. Even if it's a 2-year, even if it's a 2-year or 3-year tenure, the continuity is what the narratives produce. Now, if you look at, I like to use the American examples. If you look at the American Democratic Republic, I'm sure that Nigeria knows that they studied Polybius. He was the first person to suggest the combination of a monarchy, aristocracy, and a raw democracy. Look, monarchies usually breed tyrants. Aristocrats turn into oligarchs. The democracy turns to mob rule. He was the first to suggest joining them together with checks and balances. These people sat down, did the thinking. This is what the level of thought, or depth of thought I expect from a president like Ahmed Tinubu. Montesquieu, who was the French, go find out from any American. Montesquieu was one. Look, at a time during the Constitutional Conference in America, they were thinking of having 4 presidents. I think it was John Adams, who said no. We've studied and we've learned from Cicero, we've learned from Polybius, we've learned from Blackstone, we've learned from look, they sat down, granulated this thing, and came up with a new model of governance that never existed before. It took only a handful of people to do it. Most of them were from Virginia. So if it is from the Southwest that the President Ahmed Tinubu is able to amass and present a narrative to the country, everybody recognizes a winning narrative. But let us pretend as if we have never read the Willings Commission report in the 1950s. Let's pretend as if we never read the dual mandate that Lugard wrote. Let's present, look, there's a book, A Fatherless People, by one young, well, not so young man anymore, in the 60s in Britain. I can't recall his name now. He wrote a book called The Fatherless Nation. And I can tell you something, this is not nuclear science. We can sit down and crunch these things and come up with a tropicalized narrative for the African democracy and globalize it, join lives across the nations, and give value to the lives of our people. It won't take 4 years for us to turn Nigeria around. So please, let it be made clear to the presidency of Bola Ahmed Tinubu that we expect a lot much more from him than what we're seeing.
Okay.
Listen, we can sit around and commiserate with him. The divide and rule that was in there, he knew what it was before. We saw what he did, the deft moves he made during the elections, the brilliance he displayed then. Where is it now? Because we are now back to square one. And right now, I can tell you, I'm watching over Nigeria. I'm still taking in all my reports from all parts of the country. And I'm telling you something, this cat-mouse game will not go on for too long. It will not go well for the country if we continue this cat-mouse game. We expect more statesmanship. We expect him to come out and provide a template for Africa.
One of the things that you said, Pastor Thompson, that I think is cheering is that you have a vague idea of what it means to run a behemoth of more than 200 million people in one country. Is quite something. We're running out of time, but let me bring an issue to Professor Abbas. Now, we're talking about keeping the nation safe, and one of the issues that I believe that Pastor Thompson has also spoken about today, as he has spoken over time, is the war of narratives, and I mean war of narratives. More and more people, are very proud of Nigeria, and I'm looking at, what represents Nigeria, if not the leadership of the country. A few eggs will always spoil the image for others and all of that. But one of the narratives that it's, that's received its knocks and kudos from a good number of Nigerians is that of Nigerian British politician Kemi Badenoch. And I don't know, how do you think that kind of comment from such a highly placed Nigerian reflect on the security or the affection or disaffection towards the country?
Well, then, thank you very much, Ayo. Look, I followed, the back and forth between, the leader of the Conservative Party, Kemi Badenoch, and, and the Vice President on the one hand, and Kemi Badenoch and Nigerians on the other hand. And for me, the first thing, that has always agitated my mind is why, as a people, we always feel the need to approximate ourselves. I'll tell you what I mean. You don't hear about certain Nigerians. Whenever a Nigerian achieves something overseas, there is always a rush by us as a country to annex them, quickly to approximate them, as if somebody is stealing them away from us. Oh, he's a Nigerian. Oh, she's a Nigerian. Oh, we felicitate this and that. It's as if we're in dire need of heroes and heroines. That is something about who we have become.
Okay.
When you have done something excellent, you don't need to approximate anybody. Whether you are Kemi Badenoch or you are the boxer, you are this and that, they will feel naturally impelled to come back to say, I am this, I am a Nigerian. So for me, that is the first thing we need to address. Is why we need to first of all need to approximate them. Now, having said that we approximate. The next question then is, I look at what Kemi Badenoch has said. Okay, I'm not in the UK to replicate Nigeria, police, this and this and blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. When I read through it, to be honest with you, personally, I don't see anything she's saying or she has said that I don't know about my country. These are things I've known about my country for several years. I've said some of those things overseas. And as Nigerians, sometimes we have this warped idea of patriotism. We think patriotism means not speaking certain truths about your country. No, I don't accept that. I can be a patriot and look at my country and say, you know what, my country, you are full of filth. It's tough love. Because I love my country, I will speak about my country in a way that my country might not be happy. That is because it comes from a very good place. It doesn't mean that if I'm not deodorizing everything, we are great people and this and that and blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. So therefore I'm not patriotic. So I don't see lack of patriotism in that. However, I might pick an issue in the way sometimes we choose to express ourselves. And the leader of Conservative Party or anybody in that kind of position should be very, very careful, how they express their innermost feelings. And not just about their country, but about other places. The same Kemi Badenoch in the UK said, made a reference to why she doesn't have lunch. The lunches are for whims or lunches for whims or something like that. And she came out, when the British people came after her, she came and clarified what she meant. That tells you some things, she said wasn't acceptable in their system. So it doesn't mean that, because she said something about Nigeria, she should be crucified. No. And to be honest with you, the vice president responding to her and this and that, for me, was highly unnecessary. Sometimes.
Well, I think at the end of the day, just as you said, it's a function of perspectives. All we want is a nation that is safe and prosperous for everyone at the end of the day. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Professor Ademola Abbas, Professor of International Law and Global Affairs. And we've also had Pastor Ladi Thompson, who is a security expert. Gentlemen, thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you.
So we take another break, and when we return, everything rises and falls on leadership. Yes or yes? We'll be right back.
I've been a performer, sang for the highs and lows alike, for the good times and the bad times and the titans and the war.
Nigeria's leadership narrative is often painted as one of self-interest and lack of strategic vision. The absence of a clear unifying vision, which we have spoken about many times on this program.
And this morning.
My partner is always asking, where is Nigeria's vision? Where do our leaders want to take us? If only they told us where they wanted to take us, we just might line up behind them. You never know. But as it is, I don't think any leader has come out and given us a vision yet. Or am I mistaken?
Maybe. Maybe not. I may be. So we are heading into a new year. And like my partner said as we were going on break, everything rises and falls on leadership. Now, let's have a conversation around this now with two people who are very well known in all the work that they have done and in all the training that they have given to people on leadership. The first is Mrs. Juliet Benitier, who is versed in women leadership, and she's of the Institute for National Transformation, Nigeria. She is in our studio in Abuja. Mrs. Benitier, good morning.
Good morning, Auntie Alero, and your compliments of the season.
And with her also in our studio in Abuja is a leadership consultant, Mr. Linus Okorie. Morning, Mr. Okorie.
Good morning, and good morning, great people of Nigeria.
Let me begin by being very simplistic indeed. We have often spoken with both of you on different occasions, Mr. Okorie, not for a long time, I must add, about leadership in our nation. So we haven't really had good leadership, but a new year is around the corner. And let me start by asking, do we dare be optimistic about what leadership is going to be like in our country in 2025? Mrs. Benitier, please.
Thank you very much, and indeed, compliment of the season, and good morning, Nigeria. The reality is that the leadership question and the leadership issue has been the bane of our existence. And leadership needs to be understood. There is an assumption that because a man or woman is in position, she has understanding of leadership. As I have done nation building and transformational leadership in the last decade, over a decade now, of both research and training, we have realized that the understanding of leadership is marred. We have all kinds of leadership. We have autocratic leadership, we have transformational leadership, servant leadership, and etc. The reality is that Nigeria leaders have not understood leadership. And leadership all over the world had a transformation through the years. The England we know today, the United States we know today did not start, especially England. England is a big case study, and Switzerland, Germany, for Nigeria to study, because they themselves went through various levels of leadership to get to where they are today. And like you and I were saying, the issue of vision. Leadership is actually built on vision. And while someone like Maxwell and many says everything rises and falls on leadership, he did not say everything rises and falls on leaders. It's leadership. And there's a difference between leader and leadership. Leadership is the act of leading to transform things from one particular level to the other, normally progressively. But we realize that many do not understand what leadership is. We actually think as Africans that leadership is automated. It is not an automation. You are not born with capacity to do it if you have never been trained. And when the former speakers, they were talking about the leadership espoused by someone like Chief Awolowo within the Western region, with a focus and especially on education and many others. But we need to realize that on a national level, we do not understand the cohesiveness of nationhood. Nationhood itself is a study. Look at the United Arab Emirates. Many of us do not understand why it's called the United Arab Emirates. It's a unity of emirates and kingdoms coming together to form a nation that is functional. Because they had a choice, they had a vision. Everything actually starts with the vision, because vision propels discipline and paves the path for proper leadership. Nigeria has not defined herself properly. But when you look at our documents, like we do in the Institute, we look at the national anthem, we look at the pledge and all the documents that we have at the very beginning of the formation of a nation. It is obvious when we chose green, white, green, we were speaking, but have we defined it? So the beginning of leadership is vision. Clear light. Let there be light. There was chaos. God said, let there be light. Whether in any religion, everybody believes in illumination as a beginning of a pathway. So leadership must have vision. Nigeria has not defined herself. And as Auntie Alero clearly says, how do we know and follow if we don't have an idea? And vision is not created by the individual who comes into politics. That is the narrative that must stop. A nation must have a general vision. Each state must have her own vision, and each leader that comes in, no matter how many agendas they have, 10-point agenda, manifestos, everything must follow, tail into that national vision or state vision, so that people don't come up with their hookos pocos and destroy what has already been built by a former leader, no matter how minimal it is. Somebody has to improve on what has been done, not destroy and take us back 10 years, take us back 20 years, then we're always rebuilding and rebuilding. No nation succeeds like that. There must be a national context, and all constitutions are actually built on vision. Until there is a clear vision, we cannot go forward as a nation. So our national confab is not about going through constitution, going through this, going through that. It's how do we unite a people with a shared vision, shared value, shared purpose, shared direction. Whether we are Muslim, Christians, or traditionalists, there is a common ground, and I think I heard Pastor Ladi talking about the natural laws. There are things that we must put in place. The Institute for Economics and Peace talks about 8 pillars of governance. A leader puts together from a vision a system, not an agenda, not an event, but a system. What are the systems? Who should be the custodian of systems? Should be from our own political framework, the national assemblies. What are they discussing concerning their states or within the context of a bigger nation? Nigeria is not too big to be governed. That narrative is also a lie. Nigeria 200 million is an opportunity. Brazil is big. United States is big. Do you know how many parliamentary leaders are in China? China has over almost 3,000, 2,000 plus parliamentary leaders in China who are leading the country from all the provinces and locations. You can't have a big nation like ours and people are not participating in the democracy of a nation. We need to have leaders all over the place. We just have 774 local government, and I believe we should have more so that we get to the grassroots faster. But even the local government definition, what is the vision of the local government? A nation that does not have a vision will be indisciplined. We'll have corruption. Let me tell you, all nations have corruption. Corruption is not the major matter arising. The major matter arising is centered in the National Orientation Office. It is centered in the Ministry of Information. We need to create the narrative called Nigeria. A lot of us do not believe we are Nigerians. We are still into our tribal security, thinking that within our tribe, oh, let me do it for my people, my people, my people. No, we are Nigerians. When you travel abroad, your passport is not about where you come from as a tribe. It's about being in Nigeria. And every nation in history that has ever succeeded, to the modern nations of Singapore and South Korea and many other nations coming up, even like United Arab Emirates, they came to a national cohesion of vision. And before they could get there, there were 2 years. Singapore had 2 years of a conversation of their national vision, what the people should know, what they should do. So to the taxi driver, the housekeeper in the hotel, to everybody in the nation, they understood. One thing was clear, that a nation is at the center of our soul. Nationhood is godliness. Whether you are on any side of the aisle, nations is what life is about. And a people that do not recognize that fact, that they are so individualistic, especially the elite class of Nigeria, we're talking about governance, the elite class of Nigeria, we should look at ourselves. Are we serving for the interest of Nigeria? An Israeli goes abroad, he does not introduce his business first, he introduces his country. The pride of this country is that every state has something to offer. Every state can do something. There is nothing extraordinary about what is happening in Nigeria. Nations have gone through their quagmire. They built out of it by smart leaders, not by spirits, not angels. Like I always say in the class of the Institute for National Transformation, angels and spirits do not build societies. Societies are built by leaders who have the audacity, the sagacity, putting all their effort, their time, their treasure, and their life for a nation. Okay. And today we want to challenge us as we go into 2025. We can do better. Okay. We have the capacity to lead. Everywhere we go, look at the young man that won the race car thing in Nigeria. The other young man winning something, Nigerian. Doctors, Nigeria. Experts, Nigeria. So who told us that we cannot build a nation? Okay. It's just that we have never been taught. Okay. We have never been told what it takes to build a nation. And this is the time for decisions to be made at all quarters, not just at the presidency, but everywhere in the nation. Okay. Mr. Korea, you want to add anything to that before I ask you your question?
I mean, my thinking is that she's done, great justice with the way she had brought in leadership being a sort of concept, a concept that has to be understood by every Nigerian. In fact, it was Dr. Miles Monroe who defined leadership in a very powerful way about 2012, when I had the honor of hosting him in the city of Owerri, talking to 1,500 people, and he stated, I quote him, he said, leadership is the ability to influence, motivate, drive a group of people towards a particular direction by inspiration, not intimidation or manipulation. So what it therefore means that the leadership stems from the fact that every human being that is listening to me today can become a leader, which means everyone a leader. Imagine the possibility when every Nigerian is a leader, not driven by the concept of position. Oh, those who are in politics, they are the ones who are the leader. So I'm a member of National Assembly because I've been elected as such. I'm now a leader, so everybody calls me leader, even when I have deficits of the leadership qualities that is needed for me to be able to change things in my constituency. So when you look at it from the perspective of where she's coming from, I'm excited that she started the conversation from that foundation, and I'll be glad, to build upon that.
Yeah. Mr. Korea, You have said about a leader being able to guide and motivate people in a particular direction. Now, let's look at...
We're not hearing her.
...the office of the citizen. Are we, as citizens, looking at our leaders critically enough and demanding of them that which they're supposed to do as leaders? Is the office of the citizen efficient? Is it effective enough?
It depends. It depends on the quality of the citizen. I mean, one of the challenging things that I've understood here since 31 years ago, when I was only 19 years old and started my journey for leadership development, I just suddenly realized that, if you say, oh, everybody, you're a citizen, let's make things happen. People will come to the table, some not knowing what to do, because they have not, first of all, become. So if our school system, the way it's designed, primary, secondary, university, has not given us a foundation where people can start actually learning leadership from their family unit to the school unit system, where leadership is taught, investment in leadership is made. I would never forget an experience I had in America a couple of years ago. I was invited by the American government in a program they call IVLP. I was one of the 4 Africans who made that list, 27 from around the world. These are people who have brought in for 1 month under IVLP to spend 1 month to understand what makes America work from the leadership development perspective. And a young man they brought about 100 young people to spend time with us in a dinner. And a young man from, I think it's from his high school from New York. His name is Aaron. He said, Mr. Linus Okore, what do you do for a living? And I told him, I am a leadership coach. I'm grooming leaders for Africa. And the young man simply said to me, sir, can I and my friends raise money for your work? I was shocked because it was something that I have never experienced before. So what did I realize from that meeting? Number one, the young man had been taught volunteerism, meaning of volunteerism. He has been taught the meaning of service. He has been taught the meaning of patriotism. They have taught this young person in their school curriculum.
That's right.
And every local government has a budget. Each county has a budget for leadership development. Each state has budget for it. So the young man has been experiencing leadership conferences from very early age. And so I realized that the American system had huge investment preparing these young people to be citizens, to be leaders who can question the system, or when things are not working, they have the capacity to come to the table to actually bring the knowledge to the public. Take, for instance, if a young man doesn't know exactly what he's about in the first place, if a person doesn't have a purpose for waking up, sleeping becomes interesting. So this guy doesn't know what he's about. So tell me, what is he going to look out for? When people step up to lead in whatever positions, will stomach infrastructure not overshadow the qualities of leadership based on who the citizens are in their concept, in terms of their knowledge, in terms of their mindset or what they believe in? So what is important for me in 2025 will be this. I would want the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to, like never before, bring out huge budget, 10 billion, 20 billion, 30 billion, and say for 2025, I want a group of you who are passionate about leadership development. I want all of you to come together and take the message of leadership development across Nigeria, the rural communities, wherever young people are, wherever leaders are. The political class will sit down compulsorily, sit down and learn what leadership is about.
Just a second. You
That's
touched on
what we need.
Yeah, you touched on the constituencies that I was taking you to. Number one, young community, number two, the rural communities. Last night I was part of I saw on Channels Television an episode of Hard Copy where Professor Oyelare Yinka was talking about an initiative of the federal government, of the AFDB with the federal government, which the federal government is guaranteeing some facilities for states. And they're talking about how they're going to integrate the rural communities into that initiative in a way that it's not just something elitist, it's something that is going to go really down there. The understanding of leadership to the young people and in the rural communities so that we can have a bottom-up leadership approach. How do you think we can achieve that?
You know, like I said clearly, there are already human beings in this country right now who leadership development is their forte, is their calling.
Yeah, I know, I get that, but if you can give us a direction, just a second, Mr. Okori, if you can give us a direction, how? Because it starts with accepting. The people, not the people who are going to fund it, not the government, the people to whom the message is going to go, what should be their first take? What is it that's going to allure them to this whole concept of leadership?
No. The point I'm making is this, sir, is that, you know, there has to be, first of all, a defined vision of what we want to accomplish. If we want to grow a critical mass of young people into the leadership knowledge system, starting from the grassroots, then you have to take people who not politicians, not people, portmanteau carrying people who don't understand what leadership is all about. Take people who are tested, proven, and invest real money to say, go into the local communities, design your programs, and invest in these young people from their mindset transformation. Transform their mindset, give them the definitions of leadership that is impactful, and let them imbibe it in their system. They begin to see that, oh, wow, they are leaders in their own right. So when those wicked people come to during politics to deceive them with stomach infrastructure related issues, they will they say, no, we don't need this. These are the qualities we're looking out for. And those who have those qualities will enjoy the votes of those kinds of people. And not only that, these people, when they find themselves, you can discover that they will begin to be part of the community. They'll begin to help the community grow. Some of them will begin to develop visions for their own lives. That they can grow systems, grow organizations, grow companies within those local systems itself. So they become useful, become servants, become servant leaders, become leaders who are adding value to the system, community developers, because they have understood that leadership is not about them. That leadership is about service. That knowledge has to be understood clearly. That's the point I'm making.
I get that. So let me take the same question to Ms. Beniche, but speak to young ladies. Their responsibility in the rural communities cannot be undermined. Let's not even play with it. I had a grandmom who farmed herself. The dad went to farm, mom went to farm as well. And even now, there are initiatives, international, global funding for rural communities, initiatives by rural communities for women and children. Even the AFDB has initiatives like that with bias for women and children. And it takes some measure of leadership understanding and accepting that they have the leadership and they have to lead. Speak to the possibility of that. How do we take that from the urban Nigeria to rural communities and to minimize rural-urban migration?
Excellent question. And I think, like Mr. Okori has already begun to say, one of the things that create change is giving people hope and vision. And at the rural level, we need to let people know that all is not lost. How? First and foremost, in developing the human mind is to give the mind vision and hope. What does that mean? The people need to see the possibilities. And possibilities are taught. Possibilities are not just caught, it is taught. What is this possibility? Every female is actually a leader. You carried a child and you gave birth, and you have to raise that child. That is leadership. And so every female is not a second-class citizen of Nigeria, is also the contributor. Leadership is about contributing. One of the things about rural Nigeria is that we need to organize them more into like groups and cooperative. We need to look at the model of the Bangladesh acting president right now, his name slipped my mind, Mohammed or something like that. We need to, UNISA. We need to look at that model, as it were, where women were put in groups at the rural level and given incentive, financial incentive with conditions. In actual fact, his program had conditions. One of the conditions for you to receive finances is that, number one, you have to have a clean environment. You must have dug a pit toilet. Your children must be in school. There were conditions for those finances. It has to be the carrot and the stick. Because at rural Nigeria, we still have a high level. Based on our population, our level of illiteracy is too high. And Linkwai said the precondition for democracy, most African nations did not meet it. What are those preconditions? One of the greatest preconditions for democracy is education, basic education. I was in the bank a few days ago, and a gentleman, they were filling a form. They were filling the form for him. So I said to him, Oga, this is not good that you do not know how to read or write. It doesn't mean you should go to university. But the basic capacity to read and write, to count numbers and to write is given to human beings. So in rural Nigeria, we need education bottom up. The classroom education cannot cut it. We need unconventional education under the tree, using solar laptops, or what do they call it now? Tablets, solar tablets, because of electricity issues. We need unconventional ways that one teacher can teach 1,000 children across the nation. One individual somewhere in the corner of the globe can quickly dispense knowledge, but that knowledge must come with incentive. People must also eat. So therefore, in organizing them, those who will be doing the potato planting, beans planting, other agricultural ways and preservation, and they see industry coming into their village and they are a supply conduit to that industry, it becomes a chain and a system. Leadership is about building a system. I repeat, it's not an event. If you're a leader, you must come with a system from grassroots, okay? Baby girl, young man, because it's not enough. I don't believe in the training of just the girl child. The boy child also needs it, because not a lot of the narcissism that we are seeing in leadership and egocentrism came from that child, male child, who thinks that he's not committed to a nation, he can do as he pleases. So we need to bring them up from the grassroots. As those fundings are coming, it has to come with a clear vision. You may have $1 billion. If the clear vision is not clear, and building systems from the technical level into the practical level must be a gamut of strategies. We're talking about strategies of leadership. It's not it's not a talk shop. We would teach, practicalize, educate, and sustain. But within the sector right now, if the president from next year, all industries must be pushed towards rural Nigeria, close to the production area. There are those who are probably good with the snail farming. How do we package snail farming for export? Every export must always have the percentage for consumption, because India made that mistake.
So essentially, madam, you're talking about sectoral approach, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Well, we have just about a minute.
Sector by sector, group by group,
yes,
cell by cell.
I
then
think
together we
system,
are building state by state.
I think that system already kind of exists, because they have community development associations, and they have trade unions. Okay, you have pepper sellers association, stuff like that kind of already exists.
Talk shop.
Yeah.
No, so, they are not systems, they are events.
Okay.
They have not been systematized as they should.
Okay.
As things are done at the national level.
Maybe that is where the initiative, the intervention should come in, because those structures already exist. It's putting the system to make them work that you're talking about.
Yes, to make them potent and accelerate.
Okay. All right. So now, in closing, Mr. Okorie, what would be your recommendation particularly to the state governments, because that's where many of these people live. You have 10 seconds.
I have seen, I've cited some of the budgets of state governments, and I have not seen a lot of budgets on leadership development, specifically, because I see state government invest so much money in machines, giving young people, they call it empowerment of all sorts.
All right.
Most of those things add no sustainable value. So what they can complement it will be huge investment in leadership development. The mindset of young people in the state, once they transform, they will find themselves and then make a big difference.
All right then, thank you. Madam, 10 seconds.
I mean, I totally agree. We need smart empowerment. We can't just say we are doing empowerment without education and without human capital development. And the first part of it is that leadership and capacity to sustain life and create systems that are in 1,000 years still exist. And somebody else is picking it up from there.
Nation building and women leadership consultant, and she's of the Institute for National Transformation, as well as Mr. Linus Okorie, leadership consultant, both of whom joined us from our studio in Abuja. Thank you very much. And once again, season's greetings to you both.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ayo. Thank you very much, Janice.
And we'll take a short break now, and when we come back...
New Year resolution.
You know all those things that you say to yourself at the beginning of the year?
I'm going to do this, I'm going to stop this.
Okay, we'll look at them. See you in just a moment.
I've been told several times that laughter is medicine to the soul. Why were you laughing?
New Year resolutions.
Is that what you're laughing?
That's why I was...
Okay, so we should jump and pass.
That's why I was laughing. Because of the resolutions I make every year. I must stop eating chocolates. And I never am able to stop. That's why I was laughing.
So let's just jump straight into it. Queen Iwe is here with us. She's a holistic wellness coach. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
How many years have you been making this resolution?
Maybe about 20. And I've had a chocolate today already. Now you see why it's funny.
Okay, so why do health goals fail?
So just for me to laugh a little bit, because I know, right?
Some people are laughing at themselves already. Waiting. This is 20 years. Mine, let me count.
Since infinity.
But I achieved it 1 year.
Amazing.
For 1 whole year, I didn't eat a chocolate.
Wow.
And then I really can't tell you why I went back.
Thank you so much for having me here again. So health resolutions. I guess we should start by just looking at what the global statistics says. 80% of people who set out, they set goals by February, it's already trashed or dumped. Like, I cannot come and kill myself syndrome.
No, you didn't end it. I cannot come and kill myself and die.
Okay, no, I didn't know that there was a dying in that one.
I'm dying at the end.
Okay, so I think to start off with, a lot of people do not have specificity. So, for example, I want to stop eating chocolate. I want to lose weight. I want to exercise more. I want to eat healthier. It's just there, but it's bland. Nothing becomes dynamic until it is specific. So if, for example, let's take the chocolate now. I probably would just be, I'll use you as an example. You want to stop eating chocolate, for example. How often do you eat chocolates? So let's say the goal is to stop eating chocolates. Well, for me, one of the things I share, because for me, I'm holistic, I do not practice or I do not preach all or nothing. Because many times when you go that route, you will not be able to sustain it. So what I preach is have those little treats or those little things that make you happy, because if chocolate is your happy place, then you're depriving yourself of pure joy. But then you're able to balance it. So where you now want to set a goal, number one, don't say, I will stop eating chocolates entirely. That's not possible. But you can say, every week, I will give myself a treat, a chocolate treat every Sunday. So that's specific. You still have the opportunity to eat what you want, and enjoy it. But then it's tied to something that is specific, right? If you want to exercise, I want to exercise, or I want to lose weight. How exactly? How many kg? So you can say, by the end of 2025, I would have lost 10 kg, 15 kg, 20 kg, whatever it is, but you must tie it to something that is specific. I want to exercise more, or I want to exercise more, yes. How? Is it in the morning? Is it in the evening? How many minutes a day do you want to exercise? What days of the week do you want to exercise? What kind of exercises do you want to do? So when you're able to bring it down to specifics, what you're doing is you are training your brain to be able to identify and then respond to what you have said that is specific. Otherwise, you will just say it, it will just be what it is, and it will never happen. And that's why a lot of people, I want to exercise more. That you don't have a plan, you don't know how many days in the week you want to exercise, you don't know what you want to do, nothing is specific. So you start with so much zeal and zest, and then before you know what's happening, everything has generally fizzled down.
I've been trying to lose 2 kg for one whole year. Mm-hmm. And I exercise.
Okay.
And I eat what I'm supposed to eat. Well, apart from the chocolates. And the cakes, of course.
And those ones will actually add.
I haven't even achieved 1 kilo yet.
I was going to ask you a question. Okay. So let me just put it out there. All these that you have said, beautiful dogo turunchi.
Beke.
Now, here's why I said that. So you are able to sustain it for a month. I'm going to do this to this. I'm going to exercise for 30 minutes every Sunday evening between X time and X time until something comes your way. And then your schedules are totally altered. For instance, let's say a family, for instance, that says, okay, we have morning devotion until daddy has to leave home at 6 a.m. when the children are not awake. So what happens to family time? So that also now has to be rearranged from time to time. So that also could have an impact on those goals that you're talking about, right? So specificity you're talking about.
Yeah, so one of the things that I have found tends to serve like as a stumbling block to a lot of people achieving their health goals is mindset. So the first thing that a lot of people contend with is the possibility of this really happening. Rather than think about what would not happen, why not just focus on the fact that this is what I desire and this will happen? When you get to those places where you have things to contend with, because your mind is set on the possibility, your mind now begins to recreate other options to ensure that it happens. For example, if a dad has to leave the house very early in the morning and you don't do morning devotion, the children wake up. Before you get to the office, let's say 8 o'clock, you can get to do a virtual morning devotion. Call via the phone and you guys do the morning devotion on the phone. So that's a way to think that this will happen. Don't think like I start and I stop. I'm not able to. Whenever there's anything that tends to oppose that goal that you have set, you will not achieve it. Anything you struggle with, it persists. So if you're struggling with, I want to do this, I want, there's so much resistance. The possibility that the negativity would be stronger is because it's been there for longer. So what you need to do is to begin to reprogram your mind, begin to think in positive light what it is you want to achieve. And over time, for example, I have come to a point where I don't need to think about what I want to drink. Default is water almost every time, but it didn't happen overnight. It didn't happen over time. There were times where I just wanted that sugar rush and I grabbed it, but for right now, it's more. So I realized like, okay, I'm not even thinking about this anymore. Over time, because I focused more on the fact that water is what my body needs, it nourishes it, this and this and this. This is what will be good for me in this season. And I'm aging, I want to age gracefully. So yes, of course, I want to age gracefully, yeah.
Okay.
And now I have a default setting of taking water and even eating cooked foods after 12. It's now a default setting. So we have a lot of work to do with our minds. Trust me, your mind is the first place, like Reverend Sam said, I learned from him, success is first within, then without. Once you're able to see it, visualize it, claim it, own it, then it can begin to unfold and unpack. And then you would see it like an adventure because you begin to have new learnings as you go on. For example, you can begin to learn what triggers your chocolate desire. You might realize that, oh, anytime I get stressed, I reach out for chocolate. Okay, so what can I do to manage stress effectively? You know, you could just begin to have those learning points that help you, right, to navigate your love for a specific thing.
It's not a desire. It's just a habit.
It's a habit. I mean, you make habits, you break habits.
From when I was little.
Yes.
Okay, so here we are now. Perhaps another thing that might help the fellow listening to you and watching you right now is, what are health goals? You're not going to ask anyone what are financial goals. They know what they are. I want to make more money. All of that. But when we talk about health goals, what are health goals? You just talked about yours. I want to age gracefully. How do people identify what their health goals are, irrespective of whatever, intractable health conditions that they may have?
So I would say, think about it this way. You know, we're currently in an economy that looks like people are surviving. So think about your health goal as something that will make you thrive rather than survive, such that as you journey through life, you are able to flourish in your body, in your mind, and in your spirit. Now, the thing is, it's for different people. So it also has to do with who you are, what you value, what your life goals are, if you have ambition, if you have desires, and all of that. That then will trickle down to what exactly you can define as a health goal. But one thing I could also say, it's something that helps you become a better version of yourself as you age. So it's not taken away from you, but it's even improving and adding much more to your life, right? And it's not only the body, it's your mind, it's your body, it's your spirit, it's 360, it's holistic. That's what I'll say is a health goal.
Now, the thing that you just talked about now, holistic, long-term and all, I've seen quite a number of videos on Instagram, on X, and I'm not thinking about what you're thinking about right now. I'm just seeing people just living, just to impress other people, and then their lives are being altered one way or the other. And I'm just wondering, at what point do people get to the point where they say, if I don't take action, there are consequences? There are long-term consequences to my short-term whatever. Maybe I should ask you this. Is fear enough motivation for people?
Well, it can be if it's... if I'm a coach, for example, and I desire that people should begin to exercise more or eat healthy, one way to make people become really afraid is to bring statistics, what's happening globally. This is what statistics say. People who are obese, if you're on the weight side, they tend to die young, early. They tend to have non-communicable diseases. Just generally amplify the negatives, because some people will never get to that point of awareness until something like that jolts them into reality. For some others, they have to get a doctor's report to say, this is where you are. If you don't do X, Y, Z, your life will not be long, and then they're jolted too. So fear in itself can serve, but it's something that is meant to motivate people to take action, to do the right thing. So as a coach, I may not come and shout doom on you, because that's not what I'm meant to do. I'm meant to steer you to take the right action or the right steps, so I can provide information, clues to say, oh, have you heard? Did you know this, that? For some people it will take like a year. Some people it will take like 2 years, depending on our different places of awareness and readiness. Like in coaching, there's different stages of readiness. Some people are not even in the place where they are ready at all. Some people are at the place where they are already aware but not ready. Some people are at the place where they are ready to take action. Some people are at the place where they are ready to maintain. So it depends on where people are per time. So for someone like me, it's to keep sharing information, reminding you, encouraging you. And I've had a client who for such a long time struggled, and I kept encouraging about 3 years. And one day she just sent me a message, and she had actually lost weight, like 3 dress sizes.
Yeah, but some people don't believe that it can always happen to them. Otherwise, why do we still have drug pushers? Oh, he was stupid, that's why he got caught. I won't get caught. So if you say that I need to lose weight or this, okay, my grandmother lived to 80 and she was obese. So it's in my family.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen to me. There's that kind of attitude.
I mean, when it comes to attitude, there's little or nothing you can do for such people. You keep hoping and, praying that they will be able to, get the message. But if someone is in that space, that's a mindset. And a mindset doesn't just change automatically. There has to be something, maybe a shock therapy or an experience that, then thrusts them into that, awakening, I need to do something about this. But people generally because I have clients who just did not do it, and I cannot change you. I cannot. So it's like they say, it is what it is currently. But such people may also have the opportunity, depending on what they encounter in life and their journey generally.
Yes. Let me take you back a bit. You were speaking earlier about living healthy. Can you just give us like a guide as to what we need to do?
Okay.
In broad terms, to be able to live healthy.
So I would say know where you are exactly. So it's important to take stock. Where exactly are you? A lot of people don't do that. So before you even start to have any goals or anything, know where you are. Oh, this is where I am. This is my health status. Know where you want to go. So I want to be able to do X, Y, Z. Like I said, make sure it is simple but specific, right? And then set your goals. Set your goals. And when you're setting your goals, you can set, we know the SMART goals. For me, when I'm coaching, I say set smarter goals. One is simple. So I don't go with the normal SMART goals that we have. I go with S for simple and specific. Simple and specific. M for motivational. Something that will motivate you to achieve that goal. So for example, if somebody wants to shed some weight, you could set a goal to say, by the end of 2025, I am, 3 dresses lighter, and I am living the life of my dreams. Something that really inspires you and is motivational. That's S and S. Then A, aligned with who you are and what you value. Personally, I don't like to run. So because they say it is good to run, it is not what I value. And it's not aligned with who I am. I like to walk. I will not run. That's not to say that I will not get to a level in fitness where I can run eventually, but I'm not going to start with running, because I know the day I start running, I will just say, this is stress, but I can't do this. So a lot of people just jump to the gym it's not necessarily aligned with who they are. So they get there and they are overwhelmed with all the machines, everything happening, and they just let it start, and you hear them say, I registered. After I went that day, the money they have been looking for me. So if you like to dance, why not start with dancing? Make a commitment every morning for 10 minutes. I will put my best music and I will just dance. And be crazy how you dance, but you're expending energy, your heart rate is pumping, blood is flowing, releasing endorphins. That's a good way to start. Aligned with who you are and then what you value. Then R is for realistic.
What did you say A was again, sorry?
Aligned with who you are and what you value. Aligned with who you are and what you value. And A is realistic. So where you say, oh, in 1 month, I want to shed 20 kg. My reply to you is they play. Because it is not realistic, it is not sustainable. Research has shown that you can't shed 1 kg to 1.5 kg weekly. So realistically, you could say, oh, at the end of the month, I can do 4 to 6 kg. So if you want to lose 20 kg, how many months would that amount to? That's about 5 months.
What if I go on hunger strike and I'm exercising every day?
They play. They play. Because the truth of the matter is, for that, you are depriving your body of nutrients, minerals, and everything it needs to work effectively. So you are even killing the body much more, because food is fuel for the body, right? But we also need to eat healthy and eat, nutrient-dense meals, right? Then T is for trackable. You should be able to track your goals. And that's why I said when you set goals, for example, you're shedding weight at the end of week 1, get on the scale. Have I lost? Okay, no. Why did I not lose? I mean, look at it. Okay, I didn't exercise as I needed to be. You should be able to track your goals, right? Then E is for, what's the E again? I'm trying to remember the E.
Exercise?
No, evaluate. You should be able to evaluate. Yes, evaluate regularly. How am I faring? What am I doing? And then the R is to revisit and reward yourself. So you constantly go back to, where am I? Every week, you can do it weekly, you can do it monthly, you can do it quarterly. And whenever you have any small win, no matter how small, please reward yourself, because that's how you go back to the cycle and you keep going on and on. But by the time you get to the end of the year, even if it is just 5 kg you lost, that is enough motivation to keep you going for the next time.
Just imagine somebody...
5 kg is a lot.
That's something to start with. So one of the things I also find is that people expect so much so soon. Give yourself time, give yourself grace.
I just imagine someone saying...
I'm giving myself a year.
Say I should reward myself.
2 kg.
So I imagine, let us say, I want to reward myself with...
a bar of chocolate.
Well, this is another one of several. I think we're going to have you a little more frequently this year. In the year ahead, hopefully, Queen Ewo. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Queen Ewo is a beauty consultant, a wellness strategist, weight loss coach, holistic wellness coach. Thank you so much for your time again.
My pleasure.
Okay, so what do you call that last segment again?
The home stretch.
We'll be right back.
Teledogu say we like to party. Just call me. You want to know 30 BG? You go know 30 BG when you see 30 BG.
Did I get that description right at the beginning of this program or what? Remember what I said at the beginning?
Yes, I remember what you said at the beginning.
Good. I said a young man who pretends that he's an old man and acts old people's roles.
To make it look like...
My pleasure to welcome Jude Chukwuka.
Big sis.
I didn't know you were a singer as well.
He's a rapist too.
Yeah, just... Oh, double P, please.
He said rapist. Actor, movie producer, singer, songwriter.
No,
No,
I don't write songs.
Okay, you didn't write them.
I generate songs from other writers. Yes.
Wait, that video you made, the first one by Blum Blum Studios?
Yeah.
was not written by you?
No, it wasn't. It was written by a young man. And I saw it and I told him, I'd like to acquire this to make something of it. The young man, we had a very fine deal and he was happy about it. So...
No one will convince me you didn't write that song.
Well,
no, seriously.
Now I'm telling you I didn't write it.
Well, I think, it goes back to the same thing that you do. You're an actor. So,
yeah.
And it's a script.
It is a script. It is, in fact, a script.
Okay. Yeah. Good to have you here.
I'm honored.
It's been a while.
It's been a bit.
Your 2024, how was it?
Interesting. In one word, interesting. It has set me up for another level, and I'm looking forward eagerly to 2025 to see how far I can go, because the thing has taken off from 2024.
Alero said something, that you're a young man pretending to be an old man.
Olubana to Wonika Boga. Omegbe Baben to Munjengboro Badan.
Wonika Boga. Not Boga.
Boga.
Yes. I saw you in Timeless. And you were acting, and that movie is years old.
Yeah.
And you were acting the role of an old man who went in search of his love.
Oh yeah. I can't forget that too. That stands out as one of the most interesting jobs I've done. The story is what I can identify with, because my person, love never dies. You understand? Even those I have, my girlfriends of way back, they still call, Jude, how are you doing? You're fine and all that, So these things don't die. These things don't die.
Memories
yeah, man. So when I got that opportunity, I felt, okay. Then I was informed I will be playing with Joke Silva. My eyes popped out of my head. This is one person I respect a lot. And to pitch me is a dream come true. I will kill that role. And Uncle Lou will say, you look good together on TV, but remember, she's not your wife. That one.
Now, tell me, how come you speak such good Yoruba for an Igbo man? There's no accent, there's nothing.
Well,
you even can give us proverbs in Yoruba and all that.
Not just proverbs, I do orikis. Wow, I do orikis. Let me do orikife for you so that you, Kabiyesi will be here. Iba Kabiyesi o, Ife oye lagbo, ọmọ olódò kan ò tééré, ọmọ olódò kan ò tààrà, odò tó sàn wéréké, ó dẹ̀kùnlé ọ̀sílẹ̀, ó dàbàtà, ó dẹ̀kùnlé adéláwẹ̀, ó dòkun, ó ní kí ó gbọ́dọ̀ bù mú abájà wọn ò gbọ́dọ̀ bùwẹ̀, ògèdègédé oníṣòboro ni ó mú omi odò náà gbẹ, ṣòboro mi wù mí, ẹ jẹ́ kí ibi dandan máa bá lábẹ́, a kì í dúró kí wọ́n nífẹ̀ẹ́ Ọọ̀ni, a kì í bẹ̀rẹ̀ kí wọ́n nífẹ̀ẹ́ Oyè, kò ga kò bẹ̀rẹ̀ là á kí wọ́n nífẹ̀ẹ́ Òdáyé, bí a ò sì kí wọ́n nífẹ̀ẹ́ a kì í tábẹ́rẹ́ ojú bíntín ni wọ́n fi wo ni, èmi wá kọ́ba nífẹ̀ẹ́ mo là kún, ọba nílò ṣeéṣe fún àdìmúlà wọn ní àpàlàdò, bàǹtẹ́gbọ̀rọ̀ ní mo fẹ́ hùn mí, ṣẹ́gi ọwọ́ àti tẹsẹ̀ káfárí apá kan dákan sí iye ipa òrìṣà, aṣọ funfun ṣe bóun ló múlé olúfẹ́ hùn mí, àpadàrí ẹni àpàlàdó ènìyàn, ẹbọ ojoojúmọ́ ní múlé wọn sún mi lọ, àwọn ọmọ ní fìtílà rébété, iná kò ní kú níbẹ̀ tọ̀sán tòru, ibẹ̀ ń bàbá wọn gbé ń kawó ẹyọ, àwọn ọmọ onílù kan tí wọ́n fa owó ẹkùn ṣe, akété pé etí erin náà fi ṣọ̀sán lù, ó ní ké ò gbọ́dọ̀ jó, abàjà wọn ò gbọ́dọ̀.
Now, two things. Number one, Kabiyesi going to call you real soon. And number two, Yoruba actors, producers are coming for you. Have they been coming?
Ajo wọn pọ̀ ju ṣe lọ ní ẹlẹ́rú ṣe ń bà mí. Òdodo.
What does that mean?
Okay, it means they are, I don't know how to say it in English. They are,
they care.
They are care. so to speak, care, traditional care is too high, and I don't want to get involved in that kind of a play. I am satisfied with what I'm getting. Those that are my friends, you know, that have scripts, that'll say, Jude, can you cover this for me, like $7? The new Femi, yes, like $7. Femi called me himself. Egmo, Edo, can you be available for me for
Even though it was a cameo of sorts.
Yes. So that was it. There is a guy, Lawori, he called me. I did a kete for him. Those are people that are close to me. But to get involved at that level, people expect me to be involved with Gbigbo Mogbo Yoruba. So,
but you haven't told us how come your Yoruba is so good.
Yes, okay, we'll go to that. I was born in Lawansin,
Surulere,
and Cosmopolitan, LSDPC housing estate of Iloniwala in Lawansin. And on that street, you have every tribe. So I can dabble a bit in Efuk, I can dabble a bit in Ibibio, I can dabble a bit in Auchi, I can dabble here and there, But Yoruba was our plaything. When I was growing up, you don't speak any other language apart from my local dialect in my house. My father ensured that. So when you meet outside, and remember, in school, you can't speak Yoruba, it's vernacular. So when you are outside with your friends, you speak Yoruba. But that was the basics. That was the basis, rather. So there's this man that used to cast the news, NTA, those days. I do not miss his. I will miss the English, but not Yoruba, because the man starts with an adage. If there is a change in the news thing, he starts that with an adage. So that was where I started getting interested in the language and the adage and proverbs in Yoruba language. Then I started growing up. I started seeing actors like Lyric Baima, Baba Wande. Today they say they do Yoruba films. You can't take anything away from the Yoruba films they do today, because by way of language, that is, you'll be hearing most reason Pelu. You understand? Country ambassador Sonia, you understand? So you can't take anything away from what they call
as opposed to days of
Shaworoide. You understand? Shaworoide, Toluwanile, Ogunde, Jaisim, and all of that. When you watch, it was Yoruba, that when you leave that place, you live with more than one language. You are more than one adage, rather. Shaworoide is a film of adages. You understand? There was this man that acted, he's late though. He would look at me and say, Jude, say you bush in Asia. In Shaworoide, I say, Baba, say man change. You understand? So those things influenced me. And in my secondary school, I was very fluent in English. We had these two literature in Yoruba, then literature in English. We were reading A Tale of Two Cities, then Obojo, then Oborumale for literature in Yoruba. There's this girl, Muibat Kabiao. She was so fluent in reading Yoruba. Yeah, I was one of those 2 or 3 guys that would read the Charles Dickens, A Tale of Two Cities in the class. But when it comes to Obojo, then Oborumale, it's Muibat, I just told myself, this thing that Muibat is doing, I want to do it too. So I will go to prepare for the thing, to get the army. Oh yeah, what can I do? And I was getting these accolades and respect from this guy can read English, can read Yoruba. And that's how the thing grew.
Okay. Can you read Igbo as well?
I can't.
But you can speak it fluently.
I can't. Definitely, I am.
Can you also give us proof?
I can eulogize in my language. I am. I am royalty. So, and there's this thing in my home.
I would have just recorded everything so that you can translate.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I hope you are not one of those accidental actors.
Being an actor was a deliberate decision. I studied accountancy.
There you go again.
Yeah. I studied accountancy.
That's what she
at the last year, we were doing audit as a subject. Then there was fraud as a course in audit, and I said, "No, Jude, you are not an accountant." After that course, I realized I am not an accountant. I may be sharp when it comes to financial accounting, cost accounting, management accounting, and all that, but the person, the accountant, the person, I am not.
Okay. Now, moving quick, because time is fast spent already. There has been a huge evolution between the days of sitting around the tree at the National Arts Theatre and now. What's it like for you as a practitioner who is not just in front of the screen, but sometimes behind it?
Values. First, everybody knew where he belonged. There was class, and you will know where you belong. You understand. Enebelelebo and Sam Luke and all the rest can be talking, and you put your mouth. You understand. Though you can have an idea, then you whisper it through another egg, you understand. Everybody knows.
You knew your look at them.
Yeah. But today, the social media is a leveler. Everybody is a star. And once you are a star, you don't care how the other parties feel, as long as you are satisfied. That is the big difference. Another thing is the production process. I remember I shot one scene, Night for Day, in Port Harcourt in 2007, in a mud house, and the lights there, redhead. Can you imagine 2 redheads in a mud house? I was sweating. I was almost sweating blood.
You will be roasted.
But we had to get the process through. I have come to realize that an actor will act despite. It's only a model that will not act because of. So that's also the line. You understand? An actor will act despite. I've been involved in an accident with my leg broken. I reported on set the next day. So everything I would have taken standing, I took it sitting. And the director was so happy that I reported on set. I wouldn't have imagined he has set up. I just came from there. I know what it took him to get to that point. So I will now say, because I have an accident, I will not report on set. My leg was swollen, everything was padded, but I reported on set. That is the difference. These days, people need an excuse not to report on set.
The show must go on.
You understand. We are of that generation, the show must go on. This generation is, where is the money? That's it.
So if we're to sustain it, because the acclaim is huge now all over the world.
Oh, yeah.
For Nigerian content, be it music, movies, or comedy, what must we put in place to sustain it?
First, we have put a lot of things right, you understand, by where we are now. Maybe we need a lot of other people to do some catching up, you understand. But when you watch the productions of this generation, you will see there's this chasm between where we are coming from and where we are.
That's not a kind statement.
No, but it's an honest. No, but it's an honest thing. If you watch Seven Doors, not because I'm involved. Okay, I'm not involved in Ayomakon's the waiter, but the action there. The camera angle, everything was like, this guy have set another standard.
I saw Suspicion and I was wondering, do we now have a superhero film in Nigeria? The action, the editing was spot on.
Super. I just came from a set in Ekpe, Cabman. I've never done such a thing. Like, this is my 32nd year acting. I've never seen anything like that stage. It was more than 95% handheld. So I was staying in my mind. Every time he does this, I will try to edit it in my mind. I can't wrap my head around it. I'll just tell myself, okay, wait till the guy finishes. Just agree with everything he does. For me, it was an experience. So I was ready to give myself and say, let's do it. And the young man will look at me and say, Papa, I thank God I chose you to play this role, because some other people would have just said, and all that. But because it was new and it was interesting, I want to see how it will end. But I know it will end right.
Never enough time with you. Never enough time with you. Well, they said my producer is from your village and he wants you to greet us in
Igbo to close.
Aham Jude Ogomegbu Nnabife Okwuwa dị egwu Chukwuka. Awụ nwa afọ Igbo. Anụ a na-agba iwe nya na-akpa nri agada gbachiri ụzọ oke iyi na-ebu ogwe ka ọ dịzie nọ.
I heard Nnabife.
Well, that's the only thing. Whatever all that means.
That's my name.
Jude Chukwuka.
For short.
Rounding up today's edition of Sunrise and rounding up Sunrise for the year, actually. Thank you very much.
I'm honored.
Thank you very much for coming.
I'm honored.
I hope you've enjoyed all our renditions this year. We hope to bring you a fresh edition next year. My name is Alero Edu. See you next year.
Have a wonderful rest of your weekend, and please be good. There is nothing to regret. It was a year you probably didn't predict, you couldn't predict. It's come, it's gone. The next one is ahead. Have a wonderful rest of your day. I'm Ayo Makinde.